Kesubos Daf Ayin concludes quickly the sixth parak of the Masechta and begins the seventh parak, Parak Hamadir. The end of the sixth parak discusses two cases, two halachic shaylas, not really dependent on our Masechta, but related to our last Mishnah. The first begins with the story. It says that Ilfa was the name of a Talmid Chacham who went to work at some point, and he lost a position as Rosh Hashiva to Rabbi Yochanan. And people told him it's because he went to work, and therefore they assumed that he didn't have record of his learning as well as he had in the past. And he said it's not true. And in order to prove it, he climbed to the top of a very tall mast of a ship, and he said, anybody who could tell me a brisa, a Rabbi Chia or a Rabbi Oshia, and I can't show them a source for it in the Mishnayos of Rebbe, I'll jump off the mast and drown in the water. Meaning to say that he hadn't forgotten his learning. So that's what he said, and along came somebody to test him. And it was an old man, the Gemara says, and it doesn't say who it was. And he said the following brisa, and he said, where is there a source for this in the Mishnah? So brisa discusses a case of somebody who left, either he left or he died, whatever it was, he went away. And he gave his money to somebody, to a third party, and he said, distribute it to my sons 1 shekel a week. Now, the Brisa says that what actually happened was that they couldn't live off 1 shekel a week. They needed 2 shekels a week, which is equal to 1 selah a week. So the question was, should they listen to him and give only 1 shekel a week, or should they give him the 2 selah a week, or should they give him 2 shekel a week, which is what they actually needed. So the Brisa says as follows: it depends what his language was. If he said don't give them more than a shekel, then he's clearly saying I don't want them to get more than a shekel. No excuses, no way out of that. So then you won't give. If he said, however, give them a shekel, he just wanted them to have to work hard. He wanted to teach them a work ethic. He wanted them to have the normal amount that they needed. He thought that they could survive on a shekel. They really need more, so you give them more. However, if he had said, and give the rest to other people, whatever's left after they die, give his inheritance to other people, meaning he wants other people to get the leftover money, he wants there to be money left, then he very specifically only wanted to give the amount that he specified, no matter what language he used. If he said give or don't give less, don't give more. If he said that the rest goes to someone else, then he already wanted to be money left over, and you can't give more than exactly what he said, a shekel per week to the kids, even if they require more than that, because he clearly didn't want more than that. So this was the Brisa. So the question is, where do you see this? So Ilfa answered, he said it's the opinion of Rabbi Meir, which is Rabbi Meir in our Mishnah, who said that the shlish is always supposed to follow instructions. He's always supposed to do the words of the one who died, not supposed to change based on what the case is. So there you see that our Mishnah is the source for this Brisa. Now, the Gemara says, what is the halacha in this case? The Gemara says, Rabbi Chizda said in the name of Mar Ukva that the halacha is not like Rabbi Meir in this case. The halacha is whether he said give or he said don't give more, whether he said give a shekel or he said don't give more than a shekel, either way, you do give them whatever they needed, because he did not, even if he said don't give more, he didn't intend for them to starve. He just wanted to challenge them to try to be able to survive on less money and learn a work ethic, but he certainly wanted them to have as much as they needed, and therefore you should give more. Says the Gemara, why do you say that? Don't we say the halacha is like Rabbi Meir? The halacha is mitzvah l'kayim divrei meis. He's supposed to do what he says. So the Gemara says that's true in a case, in other situations, the Gemara says. But here, this is definitely what he wanted, and therefore we understand what he wanted, and you should give them more. All right, that's the first thing. Next thing the Gemara says is a Mishnah which says that children, first kids age 8 or 9, if they own property. If they own metalton, they own movable property, and they sell it, it works. If they own land, it doesn't work. They are not able to sell land. That's too significant of a sale, but they're allowed to sell things. Says the Gemara that Rafram says that that's only true if they don't have a guardian. If they're orphans, they don't have a guardian who's appointed to take care of them. If they have a guardian, then the guardian is responsible, and what they do on their own doesn't count. And he says that you see that in our Mishnah had said that if you have a girl who's a ketana, and her father had given property to a third party, to a shlish, that he should take care of her, and he should give certain amounts to her when she got married. And so whatever she said as a child doesn't affect it, because she's just a child. So you see that in this case is a third party, there's a guardian, and we're not going to listen to her. So you see that obviously when there's a third party, when there's a guardian involved, the kids don't have a right to sell anything. So Gemara asks the kasha, maybe there's a difference between a third party and a guardian. A guardian is somebody who's just appointed to act in the interest of the child. So if the child wants to sell something, so the guardian will make sure it's a good deal and will sell it. And therefore, the child shouldn't sell. If the child wants to sell something, then the child could sell it, and the guardian is just there to act in the child's best interest. So whatever the child wants is fine, as long as it works. In case of the third party, he's given specific instructions by the boss. The father said, you give out this amount at this time. So there, the child can't do anything because it's violating the instructions that the shlish has. A guardian doesn't have special instructions. The guardian is just supposed to take care of the kid. A third party is given certain missions and instructions to fulfill by the father. He's not appointed to take care of the kid. He's appointed to fulfill the father's instructions. It's very different. So Gemara says that would make sense, but the language of the Mishnah shows that it's otherwise. The language of the Mishnah, when it says that the ketana, the girl when she's a ketana, cannot issue orders, it says because the actions of a ketana don't count, because she's a child. It doesn't say anything about the fact that the third party has to act in the instructions of the father. So you see, the point here is that the child can't act when there's a guardian. The point is not that there's specific instructions that have to be followed. That concludes the 6th parak of the Masechta, and now we begin the 7th parak of Madir, which talks about when a husband makes a vow that his wife cannot get some kind of a benefit from him. The Mishnah will discuss 3 different cases and 2 opinions in each of the cases, whether the husband is forced to divorce her in those circumstances. The Gemara will have 2 main sugyas. First of all, how is the husband allowed to make the vow in the first place? And second of all, how is the solution proposed in the Mishnah? How does that work? So let's begin. So we have 3 cases in the Mishnah of a vow that a husband makes. So the first is if he says that his wife is not allowed to have any hana from him. The second is not where he vows, but she vows she's not going to eat a certain type of fruit, but he doesn't cancel it. He allows it to stand. And the third is where she vows she's not going to take any type of perfume, and he allows that to stand. Now, what's the halacha in all these 3 cases? So either in all 3, there is a possibility that he has to divorce her because he can't stay married to her under these circumstances. The question is, do you give him time to try to cancel the vow, or do you make him divorce right away? So here we have 2 opinions. The Tanna Kama is going to be the strictest, most immediate, and the second opinion will give more time. So let's see the 3. So in the first case, where he said that she can't have any enough from him, there it's obvious the marriage can't continue under those circumstances. She can't eat any food from him. So the Mishnah says you give him, according to the first opinion, you give him 30 days. He has 30 days to try to get out of the vow, try to change his mind. During that time, obviously, she has to eat, so he has to appoint a third party to feed her. The Gemara will explain why that's not a violation of the vow. But you give him 30 days. That's a Tanna Kama's opinion. After 30 days, if he hasn't gotten out of it, he has to divorce her with Kesubos. He violated her rights, he has to give Kesubos. Now, Rabbi Yehuda says it's talking that it depends whether he's a Yisrael or a Kain. Yisrael who could remarry her if he divorces her, then 30 days is enough. After 30 days, let him divorce her. If it's more than 30 days, it's more than a month, he says, then he should divorce her. If it's a Kain, you give him 2 months. At the end of 2 months, since he can't remarry her if he changes his mind, you give him 2 months to try to work it out. If he can't remarry her if he can't work it out after 2 months, then he has to divorce her and give her a ksuba. Okay, second case is where she said, I'm not going to eat a certain type of fruit. He allowed it to stand. The Gemara in the next daf will explain why they can't stay married. What's wrong with that? And here you have the Tanna Kama who says he has to give her a divorce and a ksuba right away. Rabbi Yehuda says, again, it depends. A Yisrael, you give him a day to work it out. A Kain, you give him 2 days to work it out. Third case, and that's where there's a vow not to wear a certain type of perfume or jewelry. And over here again, you have 2 opinions. The Tanna Kama says right away they can't stay married. The Gemara will explain why, and therefore he has to give her get and a ksuba. Rabbi Yossi says it depends if you're talking about people who are accustomed to wearing perfume or people who are poor and not accustomed to it anyway. If she's poor, then as long as there's a time limit, he said up till a certain amount of time, then that she can't wear it for a certain amount of time, then it's okay. They could stay married. If she's wealthy, then it's got to be less than 30 days. 30 days is a problem for her. She's used to wearing that perfume, and you have an issue. Now, the Gemara begins, and the Gemara wants to know how does the first case where he made a vow she's not going to have any hana from him. So how does he have right to do that? He's obligated to support her. The Gemara says he definitely can't make a vow that he won't provide for her tashmish, because that is obligated to do. The question is, he's also obligated to feed her. So how could he make a vow that he's not going to feed her? Our second question will be, what does it help to give money to a third person? That third person is acting on his behalf, and he's going to have to pay that person for the food that he gives his wife. So it's still a violation. She's still getting enough from him. So let's begin with the first question. The question is, how is he allowed to make a vow that she's not going to have enough from him? He's obligated, he's meshubed to support her. And the Gemara tries three potential solutions. First, the Gemara proves that you're not allowed to make a vow which violates one's rights. As we shall recall, a husband is obligated to support his wife financially, give her food to eat and all her needs, while in exchange for that, she works and that work goes to him. Those two things are in exchange for each other. So if a lady says, I'm making a vow that he's not going to get my work, the Gemara says, we have a brisa that says he doesn't have to cancel that vow. It doesn't have to be made for it because it has no validity. She has no right to say that he can't get enough from something that she owes him. Says the Gemara, in a similar vein, he has no right to say that she can't get enough from something that he owes her. So he shouldn't be able to say that you're not going to get enough from me. He has to feed her. So the Gemara's first answer is to say that this is holding the opinion that the takana of this deal, that he feeds her and she gives him her work, her earnings, this deal is to benefit him. It's so that he should be able to get her earnings. Now, if that's the case, then he has a right to pull out of the deal. He has a right to opt out. And by saying, I'm making a vow, that's like opting out. That's like saying, you keep your earnings, and I'll keep my mezanos, and no, we're not going to get involved in this deal. So if that's true, that making the vow is an automatic opt-out, so then when she makes the vow, so then it's also an automatic opt-out. So then according to the opinion that is to benefit her, and she's supposed to gain from it, and she has the right to opt out, that's the opinion of Rav Huna, the name of Rav. So according to them, then if she makes a vow, that's an automatic opt-out. He should have to cancel her vow. But the halacha is that we just said, the halacha is that he doesn't have to cancel a vow because it has no validity because it's violating his rights. But we don't say that that's a kasha on that opinion that says that if she makes the vow, that she has a right to opt out. So obviously, making a vow is not an automatic opt-out. So how can you tell me here that making a vow is an automatic opt-out? Someone says you're right. Making a vow is not an automatic opt-out. The case of here is where he opted out. We're going to go with the opinion that he has a right to opt out. And he actually did. He opted out. He says, I don't want to steal. You keep your money. I'm going to keep my food. And therefore, there's no shibud anymore. And he has a right to say that I'm making a vow. You're not having enough from me. Says the Gemara, very nice, but if he opted out and he doesn't owe her anything anymore, why does the Mishnah say he has to give money to a third party to feed her? He doesn't have to give her anything. Says the Gemara, the answer is very simple. The money that she's earning for herself is not enough, and he's still obligated to give her the difference even if he opted out. He only is allowed to opt out of what the mezonos that is equal to the money she's earning. She's not earning enough, and therefore he still owes her. So says the Gemara, if that's true, so then back to the kasha. He still owes her, so he has no right to opt out. He only opted out of the equivalent of what her work was earning, but everything else he still owes her. He's still meshubed to her. He can't make a vow against that. So the Gemara says, okay, so it must be referring to where it's enough money for all her vital needs, the big needs, a couple of little luxuries it's not affording. So the Gemara says, okay, well, are these luxuries that he owes her or not? Are these things that she was used to based on her social status and therefore he's obligated it? Then he has no right to make a vow against it. And if not, so then why does he have to have support? Why does he have to appoint a third person to give them to her? He doesn't owe them to her. So the Gemara says, no, the case is as follows. She is used to it from her father's house. However, she was willing to survive without it as long as she was part of his household and he was supporting her. So then, okay, she said, I'm part of your house now. I'll make do without it. But the minute you make a vow against me and say, I can't get any enough from you, so now I want what I got from my father's house. I'm not part of your family anymore. You vowed me out. So then now I demand my full rights. And therefore, now you owe to me, and therefore you have to appoint a third party to provide them. Ask the Gemara, what's pshat on the 30-day limit? The Gemara says 30 days, she could keep it under wraps. It's not embarrassing for her. After 30 days, the fact that she has a vow against her is too embarrassing. She doesn't have to suffer that, and she has a right to get out of the deal. This is all the Gemara's first answer. Now we get to the Gemara's second explanation of how he has a right to make this vow. Now, the second and the third answer was that they're not married yet. She's in Arusa. The first of the two answers, answer number two out of the three, is that she's in Arusa, but the time to fulfill the obligation. The time to get married has already arrived. As we've seen the halacha earlier, from the time he's supposed to marry her, if he's late, he has to start feeding her. Therefore, there is a chiyuv mizonos, but it's not a technical obligation. She's only an arusa. The oirais and the neder schal, because the oirais he doesn't have to feed her. The rabbanon he has to feed her, and therefore he has to appoint somebody to take care of her for 30 days. Why 30 days? Up to 30 days, we trust that the guy's going to do his job and take care of her. After 30 days, you can't trust him anymore, and therefore, if he's not going to resolve the situation, he has to give her a get and let her take care of her own issues. Mara's third answer is that she actually is an arusa at the time of the vow. While they were in Erusin, he made the vow, and then they got married. Once they got married, now he has an obligation to support her. The vow already exists. He was already made the vow before the obligation existed. Once they get married, now he has to support, and therefore he has to appoint somebody to do the support. The Gemara says, but if she married him with the vow in place, obviously she was Michael. I mean, why would she marry the guy if they had this vow against him? They tell me that she has to get divorced, but she went and married him while the vow was already there. So Gemara says, well, no, it could just be that she thought she could handle it. She thought she would survive even with the vow in place, and then she found out that she can't handle it. Gemara says, is that true? Do we say a situation like that somebody has the right to say, I thought I could handle it? We only say that about a mum. Somebody marries someone with a blemish or a disfiguration, and then she could say, I thought I was able to handle it, now I realize that I can't. So Gemara says, you're right, we only say it in that case, and therefore this answer is not preferable. It's preferable to go with the previous answers. All right, now the Gemara wants to know, how does it work to support her through a third person? That third person, first of all, he is the shliach of the husband, and therefore she's still being supported through him. So it's still a violation of the vow where he vowed that she's not going to get any out of him. Now the Gemara doesn't deal with the fact that he has to pay him back. That's not the Gemara's issue. The Gemara is dealing with shlichus, and the Gemara is going to discuss how exactly he words his command to the third party. Does he count as if the third party is acting on his own, or does it count as if the third party is really a shliach? We're going to have to figure out the type of wording that works to just be acting on his own and not a real shliach. And we're going to compare it to other situations in which you need somebody to do something to you, but you can't give them direct instructions. So as the Gemara, he does the following thing. He uses the following language. He doesn't appoint the third person. He makes the following announcement: whoever supports my wife is not going to lose. And then somebody goes on his own and supports, so therefore he's not a shliach. Says Gemara, I'll show you that language is a shliach. If somebody is in the bottom of a pit, he fell into a hole, and he calls out, whoever hears my voice, write a get for my wife. So that works. So if this works, that means that this guy who hears and acts is a shliach, but he never appointed him as a shliach. He just said, whoever hears my voice. Someone says, no, that's very different than this. Over there, he said, didn't know the person's name, but he said, write a get. He made the person a shliach. He said, go write a get. He didn't know who he was talking to, whoever's going to volunteer, but he made him a shliach. Here, he never said anybody should do anything. He just said, whoever's going to support is going to not lose. All right, but he didn't actually say to do something. So that's very different. But the Gemara says, but I have a case where you have that also. That's a case where somebody has a fire on Shabbos, and he wants Akam to put the fire out. So he says, whoever puts it out is not going to lose. Now, over there we say that halacha is only allowed because of it's a fire on Shabbos. So you see that in other situations, like this case here with the get, that's not allowed. It's not a valid language. It is considered too much of a shlichus. It's a violation of the halacha of shlichus. Versus, no, that's not what's to exclude. That's to include other hilchos Shabbos. Fire is more lenient in Shabbos because of pressing circumstances, but in other halachos of Shabbos, you would not be allowed to use that language of anybody who acts, any guy who acts on my behalf is not going to lose. Says the Gemara, it's still no good. I have another kasha from a different case where somebody uses an even more ambiguous phraseology, and we say that that's allowed, but something which is clearer, such as our case, should be also. What's that case? Case where somebody has a neder asering hana. He's not allowed to give hana to someone, but that person doesn't have what to eat, and he feels bad, and he wants to help him. Problem is he can't because there's an isser hana. So what should he do? He should go to the store where that person usually shops, and he should tell the storekeeper, look, I want to help this guy, but I have an isser hana, and I don't know what to do. That's it. That's all he says. And that shopkeeper should realize he should go give him food, and this person who had the Yisra on him is going to pay the bill. Should get that hint. It's a very unclear language. He doesn't tell him that if you do it, I'll take care of you. He just says, I don't know what to do. I'm not allowed to do. I want to help him, and I can't, and I don't know what to do. That's a very light hint. It's not as much as this. That implies that that's what's allowed. But in this case, where he literally says whoever helps is not going to lose, that's not allowed. Gemara says, no. Over there, the reason that you have to use such an ambiguous language is because you're going to the guy, it's his shopkeeper. He always goes to him, so he's going to understand what you want from him. Here, he's not going to any specific person. He's just making a general announcement. Whoever steps forward. There, you're allowed to use a clearer language where you say he's not going to lose. Now, the Gemara ends off by quoting this brisa in full, this case of the storekeeper. So the case is as follows. You have two people, one makes an Isser Hana on the other. So let's say Ruvain is not allowed to get any Hana from Shimon. Ruvain doesn't have a lot to eat. Shimon wants to feed him. So Shimon should go to the storekeeper where Ruvain always shops and say, Ruvain doesn't have what to eat. I want to help him, but I have an Isser Hana. He's not allowed to have enough from me. So I don't know what to do. And the storekeeper will go and give him food, and this person is going to pay the bill. Similarly, if Ruvain's house needs to be built or his field needs to be fenced, or his field needs to be reaped, and again he can't do it, Shimon should go hire workers, and he should go to the workers that usually work for Ruvain, and he should say, Ruvain has an Isra enough from me, I want to help him, I don't know what to do, and they'll understand, they'll do the work, and then Shimon will pay the bill. Now, next case, Ruvain and Shimon are traveling on the way, and Reuven doesn't have anything to eat. So now what he's supposed to do? So the Brisa says Shimon should give food to Levi, find somebody else, the third person, give it to him. Then Levi can give it to Reuven as a gift. What if Levi's not there? So now you have a machlekes. According to the Tanna Kamma, he could just put it down on a rock and say it's hefker. And then Reuven could come and be zoich in it. According to Rebbe, you can't do that. Says the Gemara, why not? Rav explains, because of the incident of Beis Choroin. The Gemara doesn't explain what it is. It's a story that happened in Maseches Nedarim. You had a similar circumstance, and a trick was played similar to this thing with the hefker, and everybody understood that it was a trick, and therefore they answered it because it was going to lead to problems. It was an obvious trick which is very ill disguised. Therefore, we're going to answer it over here as well.